Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Get Good. My name's Kit Mills, and today we're going to be working on the double bounces, which is one way of playing double strokes. Double strokes, you'll remember, are right, right, left, left. And double strokes are incredibly useful for playing a lot of different rudiments. They're capable. You can play them really fast, but you begin to run into some limits if you just use your wrists the whole time. Now you can work up your wrists. That's still, that's still pretty fast. And I've done a lot of that by just practicing, playing both strokes, popping each one up off my leg and just doing a whole bazillion of those while I'm doing something else. This is one thing that I sometimes will recommend to my students actually is just if you're watching something or reading something, you don't need your hands, or you're going for a ride or just sitting around, whatever it is, just get your hands started doing this and pop each stroke up and just do a ton of them. Doing something else at the same time is kind of makes it easier to get through it, because otherwise it would be kind of a bit of drudgery. But that's really great for getting your hands and your wrists in good shape, but sometimes we got to go faster than that and play easier than that. And so bounces can be a really nice way to make that work. So what do I mean by that? Well, you'll hear other drummers talk sometimes about rebounds, which is another way. It's basically like, think of a basketball. You take it, you drop it, bounces back up. Or if you're jumping on a trampoline, you jump on the trampoline and you're just bouncing up and down. That's what we're after with the stick. Now the drums, or pads in this case, will tend to help us out with this, so we just kind of have to make use of it. To get started, what you probably want to try to do is hit the drum and just let the stick kind of bounce until it dies. Now here's the key thing. You want to have one motion going down and then just wait for the stick to do its thing. Don't follow the stick around with your wrist. So here's my left hand, for example, and here I go. That's it. So notice as you look at my hand, it just kind of flops down and the stick does its thing. So I keep loose enough in my grip that it can do this. Now, you don't have to be crazy loose. You can kind of experiment with this. Thumb and index finger are going to be what do a lot of controlling just how fast this bounces. But the key thing is just that flop motion. If you start going like this, well, now you're not bouncing it anymore. That's no use for this. So now I'm going to do it with my right hand so you can see what it looks like from the other side of my hand. So all I'm doing is just flopping it down, and the stick just bounces until it dies on the head. When you're practicing this initially, by the way, you're going to want to practice this, as you probably figured out already, on something that bounces really well. If you're working on an acoustic drum set, not all drums are going to be the same responsiveness. Like a floor tom-tom is rarely ever going to bounce as much as my electric kit is here. It's usually going to be very dull because the head's loose, and so it takes longer for it to vibrate back up, and so it doesn't bounce very well. So the snare drum's usually going to be a good bet. Your closed hi-hat is good. If you're on an electric set, then probably anything's going to bounce fine. You could even do what I did when I was younger and didn't have any drums and play on a basketball. That's a great rebounding surface. So anyway, that's the feel we want to go for. You could even try both hands at the same time. And I'm not going down with any particular heavy force. I'm just flopping the hands down and letting the sticks do their thing. And keeping my thumb and index finger on the stick. So the thumb does not come off the stick, or else you lose control of it. And the index finger stays here. The other three fingers just kind of hang out loosely. Your hand wants to sit naturally like this. It doesn't sit like this when you're relaxed. It's curled. So that's fine. All we're doing really is putting the stick in there, gripping it lightly with the thumb and index finger, and then flopping the stick down. So, okay, how are we going to get to double strokes? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to begin interrupting those bounces. So when you go down and you hit, and it's bouncing, pick it up before it's done. Now all you got to do is flop down, wait for it, then pick it up. Flop down, wait, and then before it stops, pick it up. There's no particular rhythm you have to be after here. All we're going for is flopping the stick down, letting the stick bounce for a bit, feeling totally relaxed while it's doing that, and then picking up the stick by just tilting your wrist back. do it with my right hand now. So you can hear it and see it's still moving when I pick it up. It hasn't stopped all the way down like that. And from there, we just start to see if we can interrupt it a little earlier and start to get kind of a concrete number of notes. Like it's like we're going maybe for 3 or 4 or 5. Don't be too picky about it. Just can you hear a whole bunch of them happen and then pick it up? So it's like, okay, I'll see if I can go for 4 or 5. There's 4. Pretty easy. If you're going to make a mistake here, make the mistake of allowing it to bounce too many times, because that means you're loose, you're relaxed, you're letting the stick do the work. Don't try to play those 4 strokes. Again, if you start doing this, wrist, 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 you're not bouncing anymore and you're not practicing this. So let's try the right hand again. There we go. Now I'm going to see if I can start interrupting it after 3. And if I make a mistake, it's going to be in the direction of maybe 1 too many. Maybe I'll get 4 by accident. Help if I don't hit the rim. Now I could get it to bounce really slowly by gripping as loose as I possibly can with my thumb and index finger. That's really slow. And of course these are really bouncy too. I'll try it on something a little less bouncy, my ride cymbal pad, actually. I can also get it to bounce faster by squeezing a little bit tighter. But when I talk about squeezing, we're not talking about clenching the life out of the stick and getting your knuckles going white. We're talking about just very fine gradations. It's like when you're shaking someone's hand and you don't want to do the limp fish thing, because that's disgusting. But you also don't want to crush their hand like, yes, I am macho. You know, you want to find kind of where they are in their grip tension and match it so that it's kind of, okay, that's comfortable. That was a good firm handshake. And so you do slight gradations of how much you press. You know, you got a bigger, stronger guy, you can press a little harder. You know, someone a little more delicate, then you press a little less. So that's kind of what we're after here. Okay, here's my left hand. Now at this point, if you can control 3, then you're well on your way to 2. So there's no reason we couldn't try to just cut out that 3rd one and go straight to 2. If we're going to make a mistake, again, make a mistake in the direction of, oops, I accidentally got an extra bounce, because that just means you're relaxed, you're letting the stick do the work, and you're not cheating and moving your wrist instead. There we go, down, and I get a second hit. So down, wait, get that second hit. And if you find this difficult at this point of the lesson, like if you're brand new to these, then you may just want to stick around with first, you know, go back through that routine of let the stick die on the head. Remember, 1 motion down, and then gradually go to where you're picking it up before it stops bouncing. And then just, you know, relax your wrists as you do that. Don't make it, you know, don't have to jerk that thing back. It's really light, these sticks. So once you can get to that point and you start to be able to control 3 or 4, then start to see if you can drop off and pick it up after just 2. And you really should feel really relaxed. It's just 1 hit down and you get a second one up. In the description for the video, I've mentioned it. If you think of like those way over the top advertisements, 2 for the price of 1, you know, wasn't quite synced up there, but 2 for the price of 1 today only, you know, that sort of thing. That's what we're after here with this. You get 2 hits for each time you go down. So when I do a faster roll with bounces, I'm not having to work very hard because I'm only really doing this. I'm just getting an extra bounce each time. So here's my right hand doing the double bounces. And again, oh, if I make a mistake, it's getting an extra hit as I'm practicing this. Because that's what I want to get used to, is just letting the stick do the work. Stick in the drum, I guess. 1, 2. And again, you can control by fine gradations of how much you squeeze here between your thumb and index finger, how fast it's going to bounce. So if I go a little tighter, I can get it to bounce pretty fast. I'm not gripping it terribly tight. I could still, with a little bit of pressure, pull that stick out of my hand. but it can get 2 bounces. So at this point, if you can control 2, the next thing to do is to begin practicing doing it in time. Now I've got the metronome set on 60 beats per minute right now, with eighth notes in between. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and now I'm not actually trying for any particular speed here right now. When you're just getting the hang of this and can do doubles over and over, don't sweat how fast they go just yet. Just try to go on the beat. Notice there's that in-between click, and there's a reason for that. But we'll come to that in a moment. Let's go to the other hand, left hand. Double bounce, double bounce. Again, remember, stay nice and loose. You shouldn't be playing these hits. No hit with the wrist. Just one hit and then an extra bounce that just happens while you're waiting for the stick. So nice and relaxed. Don't go very high if you can. Just stay down fairly low. Relax your grip a little bit and it'll bounce just fine. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then the next thing you could do is just maybe count one beat over and over with the eighth. 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and. Because here's what we're going to do next. We're going to add a tap with the other hand, just a single hit. So I'll put it on the snare drum actually so you can hear it. So each hand is really just starting right there on the click, but one hand is bouncing and the other one's not. Now at this really slow speed, it'd be a little difficult to try to get the rhythm what we're going to eventually have it be, which is 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. Very square, very even. So what we're going to do is go a little faster. Here's 70. If I'm a little too tight, it's going to bounce faster. If I relax it though, I can get it to bounce right in time. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. Let's try it on the other hand. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2. I'm going to relax my grip to slow down the bounce. 1, and 2, and 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1. Okay, now we're going to go a little faster. 80 beats per minute. Stay on the right hand. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and add the tap. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. If you're getting a little more of a stutter here, hear how that's a little bit fast and out of time. That's okay. As long as you're getting the bounce, that's a good place to start. But then if you can, try to keep playing in time and just relax your grip a little bit. And that'll slow down the bounce. If this is too much for you, then don't try to do this part yet. Focus on just getting multiple bounces, then start trying to see if you can then just work your way down to 3, then down to 2, and just controlling that. But for those of you who are ready for this, this is the next step. So here's 90 beats per minute. We're going to go a little faster, and you can hear that once we get this going with the tap, it's starting to turn into a little bit of a gallop rhythm. Now try switching over to the other hand. Notice again, my wrist is really relaxed. Now to the right hand. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and I just go down and I get that extra tap. 1 and and if you stay relaxed in your wrists and in your arms here, that actually smooths out these. A lot of times you will hear some other people criticize double bounces as a way of playing double strokes because it's difficult not to get the first hit to be way louder than the second hit. But that usually happens because people are playing 1 too high, and 2, as was also present in that example, too tight. Relax. Relax and stay low and have some flow in your playing. And this is how it's all going to fit together. this tap here, this gallop we have, if you can do that on either side, then the only thing left to do is replace the tap with another double bounce. So you're just going back and forth. Double, 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 double. And all you're doing is just playing back and forth taps like this, but with an extra bounce. So here's what that sounds like at 90 beats per minute. So a couple final comments on this. This is the way that I usually take my students through learning the double bounces. So the first thing again is hit the drum, let it bounce until it dies on the drum. One motion down, just take your hand, flop it down. Here's where to put your eyes. Watch what is going on in your hand, not on the drum. Watch your hand to see if it does this. If it twitches back, then you're not bouncing it. So your key mental focus needs to be on flopping that hand down and letting the stick do all the work. So that's the first step. Once you've got that going, then you begin tilting the stick back up off the drum before it's done. All you do is you're lifting the stick. So you interrupt those bounces. That's it. And all you have to do is just tilt your wrist back, and that picks up the stick. From there, you start to try for certain numbers of bounces, 4 or 3. So maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're going to make a mistake, get 1 too many bounces. So I'm going to now go back down to 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Again, if I'm going to make a mistake, it'll be in the direction of maybe 1 too many bounces because that tells me I'm relaxed. Now I'm going to go down to 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. And then at that point, you start doing it in time. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3. And at that point, you're ready to add the other hand and tapping. 1, and 2, and 3. And once you can do that on each side, the last step is to change the tap to another double. But the gallop by itself is pretty cool, too. Here's what it sounds like if I start going a little faster. Or the other side. So even without doing a double bounce on both sides, it's still pretty cool. And then of course, once you get it all put together, we start to get all that stuff. So that is the foundation of all the double stroke rudiments at faster speeds. It's not the only way we can play doubles quickly, by the way. As we looked at earlier, you can do it pretty fast with your wrists, and that's helpful for going around the drum set. But bounces are really useful, and there's also some finger techniques, but that's a subject for perhaps a future video. So, thank you so much for hanging with me for this longer than usual and a little more technically focused lesson than usual. I hope this was useful for you, and I hope that it made sense, and I hope that you find yourself already making some real progress on playing double bounces. So, please let me know what you think in the comments below. Any questions you might have, suggestions for future lessons, all that sort of stuff is really helpful for me. I'd love to make more videos that will be really what you need and what will help you advance as a drummer. So you can contact me also on my website, kitmills.com, and I'll get back to you that way too. So thanks again for drumming with me, and I hope you'll enjoy these, and until next time, keep on drumming.